Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Messenger Show. I am your host, Mark Porteous, and this series is designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to recognize and share your own divine gifts with the world. We share information, resources, and steps that you can take to improve your personal and professional life so you can better fulfill your mission. I'm blessed to work with these amazing mentors and teachers who are aligned with my mission to empower inspired messengers with the tools and support they need to thrive in their purpose of transforming lives. And it's an incredible honor for me to get to share their message and their work with you. I believe that we all have a special message, including you. And if you're inspired to share your message professionally, we're here to support you. That's why the Inspired Messengers Network was created. And you can learn more about the Inspired Messengers Network at inspiredmessengersnetwork.com and access valuable resources to help you on your mission. Also, please like us at facebook.com/inspired messengers. And we would love to read and respond to your thoughts in the comments right below this video. So please post any comments or questions you have, and we'll make sure to reply. Today, our guest, Ronda Renee, formerly known as Ronda Wada, will share the only business model that will ever work for transformational entrepreneurs. Ronda's been called a modern-day mystic with X-ray vision for your soul. An international speaker, facilitator, two-time best-selling author, life fulfillment and spiritual business mentor, Ronda has unique ability for making the mystical practical. Having learned that all things we think will make us happy never quite seem to, Ronda went on to an intense inner exploration that led to her discovering her life's work of teaching people how to live and work from their soul. As the creator of your divine navigation system, Ronda teaches you how to align with your unique energetic soul signature, your divine coordinates, enabling you to fulfill and embrace your divine design and live a life of deep meaning, purpose, and satisfaction. Knowing that true success and fulfillment can only be found by living and working in alignment with your soul. Through her business in Your Soul program, Ronda helps entrepreneurs and service professionals identify, design, and run businesses from their soul so they can make differences, make the difference and the money they were meant to. Hello, Ronda. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
It's great to have you here, and I'm excited to talk about this business plan, the only business plan that could possibly work for transformational authors, and it's such a huge topic. Before we jump in there, I just kind of want to share a little bit of background. We met through our good friend Ken Stone during his Embodied Messengers experience, and I felt this instant connection with you. It was like a reunion of souls. And since then, I've learned so much more about you and more of our commonalities. Can you share a little bit about your journey and how you got where you are today?
And do it in 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, your whole story. Just the last 20 years, if that's right.
Wow. Yeah. The part that feels really pertinent to me right now is something that I think a lot of people can really relate to. And I've heard people share similar stories that literally sound like, they're telling my story, right? Those commonalities that we have. And that is, as I was moving through my life, I did basically what everyone told me to do, what I was told to do, the things that would make me happy, the things that would make me a successful human being, right? I got an education, not too much, just enough, met somebody, got married, had kids, had this fantastic job, fast forward, everything fell apart. And then I made a second attempt at all of that, and that fell apart too, just faster that time. Like that's the fast forward button. I think many of us inspired messengers, what I call transformational entrepreneurs, live our lives that way in an accelerated growth process, so we can get there, so we can show others how to do this. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the second failed marriage, I kind of looked around and went, okay, so I tried it your way, and it didn't work. And I don't really think it's working for you either, but I seem to be the only one courageous enough to admit it. So I'm going to find a new way. And 2 years, about $200,000 later, I was there. I mean, I was at the place where it had led me to the work that is now known as divine navigation.
Sorry, I had to go my notebook.
Oh, I love it. Mark's taking notes.
I like that term, accelerated life path. I had to write that down.
Yeah, we really are on an accelerated advancement. You know, if you've ever felt like, you know, for a couple of years, particularly when divine navigation was coming in, like right before it was coming in, which was the beginning of 2011 and 2011, a little bit of 2012, I really felt that someone had pressed the fast forward button. And I'm like, can we just please pause for a second? But no, there's, you know, pauses have their place. And they're really important, and for us that kind of have lived and live on fast forward, when the pause button gets hit, it feels even more marked for us. It's more dramatic, I think, because we're so used to running at this pace of evolution and growth, and that's our path.
Yeah. So you've got this download that came during that acceleration of what wasn't working. How did you start to find what was working? How did you make that shift into?
Oh, if only there were like one moment, one thing I could tell you, you know, like, I don't think that's an answerable question.
What started happening? Was it just paying attention? Because I realized that there was an unfolding that happened. Was it just saying, okay, I realized that this isn't working, and that was the shift, and then everything else kind of just progressed?
Yeah, everything, the accelerated advancement happened after that, right? Like the growth, it was like and then I went, hold on, let's look at this from a completely different way. What if I throw out absolutely everything I was told and then went on my own discovery process, just got curious about, okay, well, what really would fulfill me? And how does one find that anyway? And then once one finds it, how do you share it? And then there's the sharing of just like, you know, telling the people you run into. And then there's the sharing that probably most, if not all of the people listening have a desire to do, consciously or unconsciously, make money at that.
There you go. Well, that brings me up to my first question, which is, what are the differences between a regular business and an inspired messenger business?
You know, there's many distinctions, and the top ones I'll make really have to do with what I refer to as the business model that gets used, and the juxtaposition between a business as usual business model and an inspired messenger, let's call it. I usually call it transformational entrepreneur. We're on the Inspired Messengers Network, so we'll use your word. And that is, what is it that we look at when we start to say, okay, I want to start a business? And a business as usual business model, the first consideration is always what will make a profit? Like, what's going to make money? That's the first and foremost, the thing, because that's what denotes a business, right? Like, it's only a business if you're making money.
Sure.
So that's the first consideration. The second one is, and who will buy that? Right? Who is it that I'm going to be selling to? What's the need they have that I can fill that will give me a profit, right? So it tracks backwards in this pyramid. And then the third one is, and what do I know how to do that I can have someone who wants to pay me, right? So we've built this upward. I feel like I need a flip chart. So what do I know how to do that this person will pay for? Right? So that's profit, the person, and then your role. The thing that's different about an inspired messenger business is that it's completely in reverse. The first thing is not just what do I know how to do, but what am I called to do? Like, what can I not do?
I like that.
You're doing it everywhere you go, by the way, whether you're conscious of it or not. We all have this one thing that we do. No matter how you dress it up, you're doing this one core thing. The second one is, and the second piece to that is, and what's the specific change that I want to see in the world? And I would go even further and say, what's the healing that I want to see happen in the world? Because whether you identify as a healer or not, at least everyone that I work with is a healer, a lot of them sometimes in disguise.
Yes.
But still a healer, right? Because there's a healing that through their service and through their gifts that they're facilitating and creating. So the second piece to an inspired messenger business model is, and who wants that too? Who wants to see that healing? Who wants that transformation? Who wants that change? The third one is, and how do I make money at that? So what happens is that we get it reversed, because we go about this completely unique thing that we do in a business as usual way, and it doesn't work. And we don't understand why it doesn't work, because we're doing everything right. Like, all of the pieces and parts and components are there that are supposed to be in a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how come it doesn't work? Well, because it's reversed for us. We're different.
I can especially see that I can relate at least to investing tons of money into all these programs, with creating the right strategies and following all the formulas, like you said, for a traditional business, where again your first focus is on the profit, and of course for a public company, that's an actual requirement that every decision has to be made for the bottom line. And you're saying, let's flip that around, and instead of starting with, okay, where do I make money, start by saying, what am I called to do? And it's interesting you said that you're doing it all the time. You're talking about this healing, that people kind of go through that, and even if they're not making it their profession, it's just kind of what we're doing.
It's who you're being. This is who you are, whether you're conscious of it or not.
But then by taking your second step, where you're saying, okay, well, who else needs this? Who else is wanting this and looking for this? That's your next step. And then from there, then you can say, okay, well, how do I monetize that?
Right. And you said something really important there that I want to call out. You said who needs it, and then you switched to who wants it. And it's a key distinction for transformational entrepreneurs. We know what the world needs, but let me tell you what, they aren't buying what they need. So when we design businesses in the Business in Your Soul program, for instance, we're looking first and foremost as, what is it that you want to provide? What do you know that they need, right? And then what do they want that what you provide that they need is going to lead them to? This is a little convoluted. Again, I feel like I want a flip chart. But with, I call them primary and secondary benefits. And the problem is that if we speak to what the world needs, we're kind of on our soapbox. I call it the savior syndrome. Like, I know what you need. I can fix this. Well, if they're not interested, it really doesn't matter. They're definitely not paying for it, and they're probably running the other direction if that's the energetic approach that we're taking. And we've all been there. I've done it too. That's how I figured it out. Right? So all the things that I share is because I personally experienced it and figured it out, right? So we have to really look at, how do we give them those things that we know that they need, but in a way that it's what they want? And it's not, some people say, oh, well, that's the, sell them what they want, give them what they need. And it is what it isn't, because it's really a beautiful way that we tie in the two conversations together. So it's not a bait and switch in any sense of the imagination, but it is speaking to what they know they're looking for versus what you know they need.
I love that you took the words right out of my mouth, because that is one of those common things, especially in coaching and perhaps in other industries, where we do exactly that. You're selling them and enrolling them into what they know that they want, but then you're giving them what they need. And the idea about marrying or integrating the two of them is really, really, it's not like you want to say, okay, I'm not going to give you now what it is that you paid for.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're giving them everything that they paid for. And the other thing that I think a lot of us have trouble with around that, if we do it the way that, we hear it the first time, of the sell them what they want, give them what they need, we feel inauthentic. And it's just like almost cellularly impossible for us to be inauthentic. So we can't just, it's why we can't use those nasty copywriting tactics. And it's why we can't, put up 400-page sales letters and have them work for us. And, list something that's a strategy that seems to work for everybody else, but doesn't work for inspired messengers or transformational entrepreneurs. It's something that's going to be feeling incongruent to who you are and your true mode of communication and your energetic signature. So it means that you get to have all of it in there. But I'm remembering, actually, she's still a client to this day. She's been a client for probably going on 4 years at this point. One of my Soulful Business Academy Inner Circle members, who said to me in the early stages of our work, meaning like in the first 6 months, she said, I never could have imagined that this is what I wanted, and it's exactly what I needed on the way to what she wanted. And so she still got everything. Obviously, she's still here. She still got everything. But if I said, you know what, here's the thing, we're going to get to your business, but first we have to heal you. She was not buying that. And she still got the healing. And I don't keep that a secret. I just didn't say it. I didn't focus on selling the healing.
Yeah, and you could go into the whole, I mean, you've got a whole program on that. That being able to integrate the two of them and how you can identify again what they really need. But I think that most of the people, when they're creating this business and maybe, like you said, trying all of the different strategies that the gurus out there are teaching that don't feel congruent, one of those big things is the profit part. I think that a lot of transformational entrepreneurs or soulful messengers, however we want to say it, have this challenge around money, and that's why we keep trying all these different strategies. How do you see profit fitting into a messenger's business or a soulful business?
So the first thing that comes up for me that I want to say around that is that it is evidence of soul alignment and congruence. Like that's really what it is. If you're not making money, it means you're not yet aligned. It means that either you don't know what your soul really wants you to share. And a lot of people are, it's not that you're like in a totally different zip code. You're just like around the corner. We need to, go to the end of the block and take a left. It's like, it's not far. And the information is always there. But, having someone else look at it that's got a little bit of a perspective rather than it being so close, that I can kind of see my earring floating around over here, but I can't get the full vision because of the place it's located on me, so that's the first part of it, is that you're close, but you're probably not quite there. The other thing is that it's really easy for us to get kind of pulled off into out of that alignment when it starts to go to implementation, right? When we do, because we do have to do pieces and parts, right? I mean, even just trying to get on the Google Hangout today, these are things that is not my forte. And I've managed to learn how to do those parts and to not do the parts I shouldn't be doing. And so when you get pulled out of your lane in any part of your business, then that's going to be another way that's going to affect things. So, the profit itself is really a measurement of how aligned and congruent you are. Also how big your container is. And what I mean by that is your energetic container. So in the work of divine navigation and identifying your divine coordinates, which we haven't touched on much yet, but I'll start to bring it in here because it's foundational to everything that we do around here. And that is the identification of what you were meant to express and experience in the world. It's literally the state of being that you're meant to hold. And so once you know what that state of being is, then how big have you been able to expand it, right? Because your business and your life will only grow to the capacity with which you can hold it energetically. And that does take practice. That takes a specific type of skill. So, and it's why, one person can stand in front of 1,000 people for 5 days and be with them. And other people, more like myself, that would have me under the bed, right? So it's different for each of us, what the container is, the size of it, how much we want to hold. And it depends on a lot of things. It depends on openness and receptivity. It depends on your receiving level. And how good can you let it get, right? But it all starts with, what are you aligning with in the first place?
Well, I like those two different points that you make. One about the alignment, and then the second one about the container, because it also kind of brings up the differences of what people need in order to, what I call, thrive in their purpose. For some people, that means, being able to take the big vacations or having a big house, and whatever that is for you is fine. For some other people, it may be a simple living, but I guess for me, the sign is if you're struggling, then that's when you feel like you're out of alignment or need to work on the container.
Yeah. Yes. And by the way, for these types of businesses, the container, meaning you, is the product. So if you're not working on that, you can work on your business all you want and not much is going to happen.
What a powerful point that is, because that's something I have certainly discovered for myself. Even right from the very beginning, I always had a business coach and then a what I call a personal coach. And you seem to really be able to combine the two of them together in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I had one of my inner circle members here just a couple of days ago. Today's Tuesday, for a VIP day, working on his program development. And when I'm doing those things, it kind of cracks me up because I really refuse to call myself a business coach. Like, I really refuse, which is hysterical because I have people making multiple six figures that were at zero when they started with me. Why won't I? Well, it's just because of the preconceived notion that, every time we get on the phone, we're going to be talking strategy or email campaigns or, stuff like that. I had one client a few years ago who, I don't know, like the last 4 sessions had been Infusionsoft setup and campaigns and things like that. And I said, look, if this is what you're going to use me for, you're wasting your money. Like, it's just like, yeah, I can do it, but it's torturing me. So you can't be getting as much out of it. And it's not what my real genius is. And those pieces only support the energetics. If the energetics are not there, nothing will work.
Well, that's funny that you said that too about, if it's torturing you as the trainer, then how is it feeling for them? And I think that's another sign that you're out of alignment when the work that you're doing is torturing you. Even if you're making great money, if it's hurting and it's not feeling good.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people that are in that position who have found a way, to make great money. And it sounds like a little bit of a contradiction that that I say they're making great money, but there's a distinction too, because there's a lot of businesses, and I work with a lot of these people confidentially. And so I know the real stuff, and they may be close to 7 figures and they're not taking home any more than, somebody that's making 200,000 or 300,000 is, because it's just a bigger machine to run. So what is it that's really driving that push to make something bigger becomes an interesting question too. Like, what is it you really are wanting to create? And if you are looking for that level, what's the motivation underneath it? And is it a pure motivation? And is it really affecting the impact that you're having, right? I personally would rather deeply affect a smaller subset of people than the masses this much. It just doesn't interest me.
And again, that's you being aligned with your soul calling, knowing what you want to do.
Yep. And I'm clear that I'm the person behind the person meant to reach a whole bunch of people, but how that gets done is different for everybody.
And that's a really powerful thing I want to kind of underscore, understanding that your purpose, your mission that you're here to is to deeply affect people who are here to make that bigger, broader impact. And so you're throwing these big boulders into the water, sending out these ripples that can affect everyone else.
Oh my God, that just gave me chills all over. That visual, right? Because we know the pebble visual, but when you say throw a boulder in, it's like, yes, that's true. My people are boulders. They aren't pebbles.
Well, it's funny that you just moved from Boulder.
I didn't. I just moved from Colorado, but I have never actually lived in Boulder.
Okay. Well, it's funny because you talked about the first step and how money can, or even just the resources, how we're feeling can give us some signs if we're aligned in our container and everything. But you talked at the beginning that the topic is the only business plan that will ever work for transformational workers. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the elements that we need to design into our Inspired Messenger business in order to ensure that we can make the difference that we want and make a great living.
Yeah, yeah. So I call these the 4 pillars of a soulful business. And actually it's I think that right there on the page, it's part of the gifts that we're providing is a longer video training of that on a talk that I did of this. I think it's actually the very first talk I ever did of this, which was one of those beautiful divine downloads. I was already scheduled to speak at a networking group or a local networking group in Colorado, and I woke up, I think it was like Wednesday morning, and I woke up Monday morning at like 2:22 and had this whole format and immediately sent her an email after writing it down. I grabbed my computer and said, hey, can I change my topic? Because apparently you guys want something else. And that's, that's just a little added bonus. The other thing that doesn't work really well for inspired messengers is not being able to follow the inspiration when you have calendars that are 6 months and a year out and you can't shift and turn quickly enough to follow the inspiration. It's another thing I find does not work for people. So I don't do that. So the 4 pillars, what I'll say first is, think for a moment about what it is when you're going to start a business, what it is that you think, okay, what do I need? I'm getting ready to start my business. And most people will go to things like, give me an answer, Mark. What do you need? If you say, okay, tomorrow I'm making myself available. Website, awesome. And what else?
I need a business plan.
Okay.
I need a product.
Okay.
Know what I'm going to be selling, who I'm selling it to, and what some of the needs are for that product out there. But then some of just the logistical stuff. So I need to have contact management, all of the online technical stuff that I need to get managed.
And that's what most people think, is the logistical stuff, as you called it. I call it mechanics. And it is what we immediately think of. Okay, what do I need? And really, usually around 80% of what we list is going to fall into the mechanics category. So just remember that as we go through these, because as I'm going through the 4 pillars, remember that they are in order of importance and they're in order of the placement with which they need to go in. And the first one is meaning. And that might seem obvious, particularly the people who would be drawn to our conversation today, but I want to go deeper into it in that meaning isn't just like, what's the point of the business? But it's a deeper, why am I doing this? Why am I called to this? What is that fire in my belly, that deep desire that I have to fulfill? And where does that come from anyway? Like, what's driving that? So, there's plenty of conversation out there in the world and has been for a long time about, like you teach what you need to learn, or, you went through the struggles, so you want to teach it. It all goes much deeper than that, actually. The meaning in the 4 pillars of a soulful business and the way that we design businesses around here is your divine coordinates. And your divine coordinates, like I said, are literally your energetic soul signature. And they are what it is that you were meant to bring to the world, however you decide to package that up, right? Some of us just decide to do it in a business form. But either way, you're learning and growing through these divine coordinates all the time. And it tells us, by the way, exactly what your soul's message is, not your marketing message, but your soul's message. That's the meaning. The meaning is never going to be something external to you. It's always going to be this deep experience that you are wanting to have. That's what it's going to be, the meaning. Why bother? What'll have you stay up all night if you need to get something done? My answer usually is nothing, but I like my sleep. But that has to have a real, somebody might refer to this as your why, but lots of times when people talk about why, it's external things. It's because I want long vacations or, a big house or things like that. Anything external to you does not fall in the meaning category. The second one is messaging. Do you want to stop and talk about that one at all?
No, just the one thing that came up for me. I'm glad you took that pause, because I was thinking of how the divine coordinates, most people, obviously, unless they've worked with you, they don't know what those are. And it's much like people who've never heard of the law of attraction. Even if you don't know about it, it's still working on you all the time.
All the time.
When you can become aware of it and use it as a tool, it can really help make life a lot easier.
Yeah, it really does. And what I'll do is, we probably have already made sure that we've got a copy, usually of my divine coordinates, because they're the most public ones, available on the gifts page, so you can follow along. But just for a little bit of background and understanding for people, the divine coordinates is a set of energies that is broken down into four directional energies, we call them, the 4 directional coordinates, which is based on the heart, mind, body, and spirit. And then when those 4 energies come together, there's a 5th one that comes into the space that's created, or now you have access to. And that's the divine coordinate itself. And that's your soul expression. The other 4 are the pathway to that. And you can't get there through any other pathway. And you can't figure these out logically either, by the way. You know, I have people come to me and say, oh, I'm sure I know what at least some of mine are. And most people are not, I don't know, 2 in hundreds and hundreds, maybe, you know, like it isn't. And there's 5 components, and it's, you know, it's a very special process that we go through to discover them. That you're right, they've always been present with you. And so most people are like, oh, of course. But then how you can then have access to and use them becomes a completely different experience.
And I also want to remind everyone, because you did mention it real quickly, but right below this video, you can look at the bonus. That's the gift that Ronda Renee is referring to, and you can download that. You can look at her divine coordinates, and maybe you'll reference that. And I'm happy to share mine. I appreciate the process of going through it, and being able to just see what they are helps. But then again, you get to go into it much more deeply as we've done together.
Yeah, exactly. And we also, I think, have a video on there too of a conversation that's much more talking just about the divine coordinates. So, you know, people can certainly find out more about that. But if it helps to have a visual, then just grab a piece of paper if you can't, or you can just click through right now if you want, but you can grab a piece of paper and draw a circle in the middle and then 4 lines off in each direction. And then I can walk you through mine, because it does help to have a visual. Okay.
Sure.
So we are going to start in the south. So this is just like a compass, right? So down at the bottom, that's the south. And write the word empower there in the south, at the bottom of the page. Mm-hmm. And then at the top, write truth. That's the north. To the left is authenticity. It's the west. And to the east, write possibility. And then inside the circle in the middle, if you hopefully made it big enough, I did not designate what the size should be, right? Recognizing potential. And then I'll walk through it. So I'm going to start in the south. And now that you've written those all down, you can follow me. These are my divine coordinates. I empower truth through authenticity and possibility, recognizing potential.
Boy, I wonder if everyone else can feel that energetically the same way I can. It's just music to my ears.
It's mine. Yep, it's mine. Yeah. You want to share yours?
Sure. And it's funny because again, we have the receiving and the giving version of it.
Yes, thank you. What a good student. You have not moved to the giving.
Great.
But you can say it that way this time.
And I can say I am receiving. So I am aligned.
So if you're going from the south, it would just, or if you're going to go from the north, so we'll explain this for just a second. So going north to south with the diagram you just drew is the receiving mode. And that's the work we initially do with your divine coordinates, is so you can fill up that container that we talked about to full, and then you have something to share, right? Where it's really easy for us to give it in the giving mode, except we're not used to receiving it for ourselves. So we say I am when we go north to south, but when we're giving it, we just say I, whatever's in the south.
Great. Yes. So
everything else is the same.
And so again, as I'm receiving it, I am.
As you're receiving, it's I am, and you start in the north. But if you're giving, it's I, and you start in the south.
Okay. So I am divine purpose, aligned through self-worth and recognition, awakening harmony.
That's so beautiful.
Mm. Yes, and so again, for me, it's so funny because awakening harmony, I wouldn't have realized, but to me, that's co-creating heaven on earth, and you've helped me go through and identify each of those coordinates, and so that's the first step of meaning, of understanding meaning.
That is the foundation of meaning. That's the meat of it all, right there. That's the meat of it all. So then once we do that, and people can go find out more about divine coordinates and the gifts that we're providing, from that point, we look at messaging, right? So the divine coordinates is your soul's message. It's not your marketing message, right? Like, I don't walk around saying, yeah, I empower truth. But what's interesting is, because it's who I'm being, the number one piece of feedback I get from people who do not know me, who have not had a terribly in-depth conversation with me, is like, wow, I get such clarity from you. And look how that's the empowerment of truth. Like, what else would you call clarity?
Right.
So that's how you get ideal clients, because they're drawn to that energetic container you've created when you're aligned with who you actually are designed to be. Now we want to communicate in different formats, right? Now we can say, okay, one day I will have a website. One day I won't just be running into somebody. There's a lot of people who can pick up on the energetics. And, for a long time, people would say, well, how do you get clients? And I'd be like, magic. Because that's how I did it, and it's really sweet. I have another one of my inner circle members. As she was building her business, she said she got all her clients by accident. So my word was magic, her word was accident. But it's that energetic resonance that was creating it. It wasn't some fancy website. It wasn't the perfect business card. It wasn't having the dialed in elevator speech. None of that is what created it. And there's a time to put the messaging behind it so that it can be explained a little bit more succinctly, right? So this is where we need to know, well, what is it they want? What is it they need? And then how am I going to communicate that? So meaning and then messaging. That's your brand, all of those components that go into that part. The next part is mindset. That's the third pillar. And this really, you can nut it down to mindset, or anything that is going to keep you from sharing and living in your meaning. Is sharing your message and living in your meaning falls into mindset. Anything that you think you're not that's going to inhibit that is going to fall into the mindset category. So really got to clean that up and be in the space of also, service, but not sacrifice, right? That's another really big piece for inspired messengers. And when I said earlier, you don't put profit first, I don't want anybody to get confused about the fact that you're not doing this to make money, but you're not doing this to make money, right? It's like the thing you would do anyway, and yet it has value. So I'm not telling anybody to give it away. I'm not recommending that you're just supposed to serve, because when you're so focused on serving the world, what I know is you're generally not serving yourself, which you cannot serve anybody else if you're not serving yourself. Which is
that's one of the biggest challenges that we
flies
have.
in the face of what we've been told, right? It's like, don't be selfish. Don't be self-centered. Who else would you like to be centered on if it's not you? Like, should be you.
And it goes to the oxygen mask thing too. I mean, if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you're not going to be in the best position to help anyone else.
Exactly. And that's why when you're working with your divine coordinates, for a long time, we have you focus on yourself, because you've been focusing on the rest of the world for a really long time. First, it's about you. When you have that full container, they're automatically going to get some. It's going to leak out all over the world, but you're taken care of first.
Beautiful. I love that image of my container leaking out all over the world. Oozing out.
Oozing out. They're going to get it by extension just because you're present. That's what's beautiful about it. And then the fourth one is mechanics, which we talked about first. And we talked about it first because of the fact that that's where most people go. And it's the least important. One of my most popular classes used to be how I built a 6-figure coaching practice with no business card and no website. Because mechanics are not important until you get to a certain place. And if you do that and you don't have the energetics, nothing's happening anyway. But it takes a lot of energy and effort and attention focusing on those externals, trying to get something created, which doesn't create anything. It's the energetics that creates it. So if you focus on the mechanics, it's like having this glorious, beautiful box that's empty. It's got nothing in it. I want to know what's going in the box, and then we'll build the box.
Perfect. Yeah, you don't buy a present for somebody and get the box first and then figure out where you're going to put it.
I love that analogy. No, that is the perfect description. That's exactly what's happening.
That's
exactly what's happening.
That's perfect. And so I think that makes really good sense. Meaning, messaging, mindset, and then finally ending with the mechanics, which, those are important, but if you don't get the other pieces in place first, the mechanics don't really do much good.
And you don't even know what mechanics you need, right? Because, you think about all the different models and things that are taught out there. Some work for some people, some don't work for other people. But, I see a lot of people worrying about leveraging before their schedule is even full. Like, why do you need to leverage if you're not busy? Like, this is not a problem for you at this point. There'll be a place when you do the other pieces where you'll need that, but it's not today. So, let's get your schedule full first. Let's get you making that difference with enough people that you really actually won't care. And then one day you'll go, oh, I should do something about that.
Yes.
That's when you do it.
So where do you think that most inspired messengers get off track while they're building their business?
We kind of already touched on it a little while ago, in the sense of taking this deep commitment and then trying to put the container, the mechanics, the box around it. That's mostly where they get pulled out, and then they get pulled out with the money drivers, the externals. All of this talk about. It happens at 2 levels. It happens at the get a 6-figure business, and then once people get there, then it's like, get a 7-figure business, and most people really comfortable somewhere between 3 and 5, 100,000, right? That's a really comfortable business. And that is actually really easy to create. It's really easy to create when you have the right type of business model in a way that has your soul's calling messaged, so that the people who it's going to make the biggest impact for can digest it in the way that they want to digest it. And that they get what they're looking for, and you get what you give the best at the right price point, right? So I promise you, I have yet to not be able to find a way to get someone paid for their gift.
And that's a good point. You added the word well, getting paid well.
Wow.
And the number can be different for anybody, because there are people who can live very comfortably on a 5-figure income, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But being paid well for what works for you starts with following these 4 steps. People have this great bonus tool that they can download. What else would you recommend, or is there anything else that you'd like to share to help people just get started?
To help people just get started, I think the easiest thing to do is just leave you with the practice of how to choose what to do next in your business, right? Like how to know where your motivation and driver is coming from, and then how to choose next. So trying to decide how I want to share this. One of the practices that we give everyone at the very start that are going to do the divine navigation work, one of the things that's really important is that we are really embodied. Because a lot of times, most people on the planet walk around without their awareness in their body. And your soul wants to live in your body. And so in order for it to communicate with you, you've got to go to where it is, which is really in your solar plexus. That's why it's called that. It is above your belly button and below your diaphragm. So practicing with knowing, at least being aware of that space, we give you some specific practices on how to go there and stay there and move through your world there. But in this particular technique I want to give you is to just become aware of it and put your attention there if you can, but then don't try to keep it there. Then think about something that you're considering doing in your business, either something you haven't done yet or a commitment you have made, and feel for where it is, where it lives. So do you have an example for us that we could use for you, or just an example you've seen with somebody else?
I was trying to think if I could go with myself. We've got an upcoming series coming up that I'm working on right now. We could talk about the messenger's journey. Okay.
So let's not use the messenger's journey because only because of the fact that it's already like things are in place with it. Yep. Let's use something like the next series, because I know you and I know you've already got an eye on the next one, right?
Okay. Or how about the live event?
Oh, I didn't know you were doing a live event.
Most people don't.
Right? Okay, here's our announcement. Okay, yeah. Great. So is there an element to that? I'm not going to put you on the spot and have you check into do I do it or not do it, which is the first one I would usually do. You've announced you're doing it, so. Take one element, you don't have to share it with us. Take one element that you're considering, that you're not sure about the choice, whether it be a person that you want to have involved, or a location you want to do it at, or a result you want to achieve with it. That one feels good. Actually, that's the one I get the energy on, is like there's some result you're hoping it's going to achieve. Mm-hmm. that just know what that is, right? So you just get that in mind, and then yes, and then close your eyes and see, having that in the space, feel for where it lives, that result. Is it outside of you at all, or in your body?
It was funny because I had two different results that I was thinking about, and that you went right there. It was funny because one of them was clearly outside and one was clearly inside.
Okay, cool. So what do you think that means?
That I need to focus on the one that's inside.
Yes. Yes. Anything that lies outside of you, literally outside of you, is not what you're meant to go after. Mm. It always has to be inside. So this is how you can check your unconscious motivations and agendas, right? So you can do this with speaking engagements or collaborating with somebody, anything, and say, okay, where does this really live? And if it doesn't live in your body, in your core, in your solar plexus, then it's a no-go. It may not be a no-go forever, but it at least needs some adjustment. There's something about it that isn't a fit for you. Mm. Make sense?
Totally. It fits. That's great.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear about that later.
I'm very excited to share it. Definitely.
The other piece is the distinction that I make between an opportunity and a possibility. So an opportunity to me is something that like looks good on paper. It seems logical. Like, okay, yeah, if I do this, then I'm going to get this result. And it could be, it could be something you're creating yourself. It could be an invitation. It's not really the way the rest of the world thinks about opportunity. So just kind of ignore your regular definition of that. But it's something that like, it looks good and it could take me down a path, but it hits a wall. Like the expansion of it only goes so far. A true possibility expands energetically and there's no edge to it. It just keeps going. It's like supernova. Right. And there's no edge. As much as possible, we want to follow possibilities over opportunities. Opportunities will keep you busy, and you can have a full life with them, but the only way to have the life that you're meant to have is to follow the possibilities, the things that don't feel like they have an edge and a limitation.
That it just fits so perfectly, because again, the internal part was about my own personal growth, and I do see that as limitless, where the external part was the opportunities for the people outside of me.
Awesome. So you have to do it for you. It just goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have to serve you first. From there, you can serve others. But when you're focused on serving others over serving yourself, it's not going to work that way. It's the wrong direction. Yeah.
And the part I'm excited about, my growth is my my container as a messenger, and how I can support other people. So the internal growth is how well can I serve other people. The part outside was, well, how can I make sure that I'm giving that? So when I'm focused on the opportunity that I'm providing, that's when it gets really iffy.
Yep.
Looking at the potential for my own growth, it's like, wow.
Yeah, that's so perfect. That's perfect. And so, adding the elements, adding the layers to the opportunity versus possibility conversation that then we brought in, you could take different elements of the live event, and when you're going, oh, do I want to do this way or do I want to do it this way? And you can use this energetic exercise that we do to feel how wide it goes, and you pick the bigger ones. Those are the ones you pick. That's how you'll know, like, okay, what would it be like to have this person speak, right? Feel into that, feel how big it gets. And what would it be like to have this person speak? Feel into that, right? And you don't want to do a comparison of this or that. Like, that doesn't really work energetically. It's like, what does this feel like? Okay, let that go. What does this feel like? And then you do the comparison of the energy only.
Beautiful. Wow, what a powerful bonus tool. Thank you.
Pleasure.
That is great. So yeah, it's something that anybody, and it doesn't matter where you are in your business, if you're just getting started or if you're just expanding.
Yeah, you've got all the same choices, all the same choices to make, all of the, they're just at different levels, right? We're really all making the same decisions. It's a matter of where you're making them from, how confident you are in them, and how quickly you act.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, yes, thank you for sharing that unexpected tool with us. I will be using it myself and sharing it with others with your permission.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course, yeah.
So you've shared the 4 pillars, giving us a real clear idea about how to build a sustainable business plan as a transformational entrepreneur or inspired messenger. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
I think the most important thing to be left with is to understand that if you're drawn to be listening in to the conversation that Mark leads every day, you have something to give the world. The scale, the results, the magnitude, none of that actually matters. When you are living your purpose, you can walk into the very next room and fulfill it. And that's the thing to focus on. And then add the box around it. Like when we step out of and we use those external benchmarks as the qualifiers on if we're living our purpose, it really shortchanges our own experience of getting to fulfill that, and it shortchanges the world, because there's just one person that you can impact to the place that you know that you're meant to. That's a success.
What a beautiful nugget to end on. That's just fantastic. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for everything that you are doing and all that you are being, the light that you're shining, and for being a part of my life. I'm eternally grateful.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. I encourage you again to download Wanda's free gift. You can do that in the button right below. And just remember that just like Wanda was just saying, you are a brilliant beacon of light in the world. So please keep shining brightly. Namaste.